Your soulmate can't stop thinking about you right now. And the feeling is mutual. Wait, before you scroll past this, listen. It's late where they are. Past the hour anyone reasonable would still be awake. They sitting on the edge of the bed with their phone face down beside them, the screen turned away on purpose, because every time it lights up they feel something jump in their chest, and they tired of pretending that jump isn't about you. The room is dim. There's a glass of water on the nightstand they poured an hour ago and never touched. The TV is on, muted, throwing blue light against the wall, and they haven't looked at it once. Their thumb keeps drifting toward your name in their messages, then pulling back. 3 times now, maybe 4. They stopped counting. And on your side of the night, wherever you are right now, whatever room you in, something in you keeps tugging, doesn't it? A heaviness in the chest that doesn't have a name. A feeling like someone's calling your name in a language only you understand. That's not random. That's 2 people on opposite sides of the same silence, missing each other in the exact same moment, and neither one of them knows the other is doing it. I want to tell you what's happening with them right now. Not the dramatic version. Not the version where someone falls apart on the floor. The real version. The quiet one. Because the truth is, the way they missing you isn't loud, and that's exactly what makes it impossible to ignore. So let me take you there. It started a few hours earlier. Nothing extraordinary. They were doing something ordinary, making food, washing dishes, the kind of small motion the body does on its own. The window was cracked open. The air had that particular cool weight it gets in the late evening, when the day is finally done arguing with itself. And then a song came on. Not a song you would think to predict. Not the obvious one. Something quieter. Something from a playlist they hadn't opened in months. Something that played by accident because the algorithm reached back into a forgotten corner of their library. 3 notes in, their hands stopped moving. You used to hum this song. Not the chorus. The bridge. The part nobody knows. They used to tease you for it, for loving the between part of a song instead of the loud part everyone else waited for. And standing there in their kitchen, with the dish half rinsed in their hand, they realized something about you they had forgotten on purpose. You were never trying to be the loudest thing in the room. You were always the part of the song people overlook until they finally hear it. And once they hear it, they can't unhear it. They turned the music off. The silence after was worse than the song. They sat down at the table. They didn't reach for their phone. They just put both hands flat on the wood and breathed once, slowly, the way a person breathes when they trying to convince themselves they fine. And then their friend walked in. Their friend, someone you met, someone who knows the whole story without needing it explained, sat across from them and said one sentence. Just one. The kind of sentence a friend says when they've been holding it in for weeks and finally can't anymore. They said, you know they were the only person who ever actually listened to you, right? That was it. No build-up. No softening. Just that. And your person didn't respond. They didn't argue. They didn't deflect. They didn't make a joke the way they usually do when something gets too close to the bone. They just sat there, looking at the grain of the table, while the words slid down into a place inside them they had been keeping locked for a long time. Their friend didn't push, didn't say anything else, just got up after a minute, squeezed their shoulder once, and walked out of the room. And that's where things started shifting in a way they didn't expect. Because here's what happens when someone hears the truth about you from someone else's mouth. It lands differently than when they think it themselves. Their own thoughts about you, they can manage. Their own thoughts, they can argue with. They can tell themselves stories. They can rewrite the ending. But when somebody else, somebody on the outside, names the thing they've been avoiding, there's nowhere to go with it. So they sat there. And for the first time in a long time, they let themselves feel the weight of what they walked away from. If this message is finding you at the right moment, comment, "I receive this love," like the video, and subscribe. There's more coming for you. Now, here's the part one want you to really hear. They didn't cry. That's not the version of them I am describing to you. They're not someone who breaks down easily, and you know that better than anyone. What they did instead was smaller, and in some ways, harder. They got up. They walked to the window. They stood there looking out at nothing in particular, the same street, the same parked cars, the same streetlight that flickers every few minutes, and they let themselves miss you for the first time without immediately reasoning their way out of it. No talking themselves down. No, we weren't right for each other. No, it was for the best. Just the simple, unmanaged feeling of missing someone. It hit them harder than they expected. And in that moment, and I want you to understand this part, they remembered something specific. Not a big memory. A small one. The kind of memory that has no business mattering as much as it does. They remembered the way you said their name when you were tired. Not the regular way. The other way. The softer one. The one that came out when your guard was all the way down, late at night, half asleep, leaning your forehead against their shoulder. The version of their name nobody else has ever said the way you said it. They hadn't thought about that in months. They had buried it somewhere they thought they wouldn't find it again. And there it was, back at the surface, refusing to be put away. That's when the first intrusive thought came in. Maybe I let go too quickly. They didn't say it out loud. They didn't even think it in full sentences. It moved through them like a low hum, the kind you feel in your ribs before you hear it. And they tried to ignore it. They turned away from the window. They walked back to the kitchen. They started looking for something to do with their hands. But the thought stayed. And here's what makes this moment so different from every other time they've thought about you. They didn't fight it. That's the part one need you to sit with. For months, every time you crossed their mind, they pushed the thought away. Distracted themselves. Found a reason. Found a story. Found a way to keep their hands busy and their head pointed somewhere else. Tonight, they let it stay. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. Have you ever had a moment where you stopped running from a feeling, and the feeling just softened? That's what was happening to them. The thing they had been fighting for so long stopped being a battle. It just became a presence. A quiet companion. Like grief that has finally stopped knocking on the door and is allowed inside the room. They sat with it. For a long time. Longer than they would admit to anyone. And then, when the night got really quiet, when the city outside, their window dropped into that hollow hour where almost nobody is awake, something else happened. And this is the part one want you to pay attention to, because this is where it stopped being just a feeling and started becoming something real. Their phone buzzed. Once. Then again. Then nothing. It wasn't you. I want to be clear about that. It wasn't you. But it was somebody who knew you. Somebody who had been part of your shared world back when there was one, a mutual friend, someone in the periphery, the kind of person who only reaches out when there's a reason. The message was simple. Almost too simple. It said, "Hey, weird question. Do you still have the number for that place we all went to that one weekend?" I was telling someone about it earlier and I couldn't remember what it was called. That was it. A logistical question. A nothing question. The kind of message that on any other night they would have answered in 10 seconds and forgotten about. But the place they were asking about, you know which one. You were there. It was that weekend. The one with the long drive, the bad coffee at the rest stop, the moment you both got lost trying to find the trailhead and ended up laughing on the side of the road for 20 minutes because neither of you wanted to admit you were the one holding the map upside down. Your person stared at the message. They knew the name of the place. Of course they knew the name. They could have typed it without thinking, but they couldn't move their thumb. They just sat there, looking at the screen, while every detail of that weekend came back at once, uninvited, unfiltered, too vivid to ignore. The way you fell asleep in the passenger seat with your hand resting on the gearshift. The way you woke up an hour later and didn't move your hand, even though you were awake, because you didn't want to break the small thing that was happening between you. They remembered. All of it. And the second intrusive thought arrived, quieter than the first but somehow heavier. Why does this still feel unfinished? They didn't answer the message right away. They put the phone down. They walked into the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror with the lights off, only the hallway light coming in sideways. They looked at themselves the way a person looks at themselves when they trying to recognize who they become. A few months ago, they could have looked in this same mirror and told themselves a clean story. We weren't right. The timing was off. People grow apart. Easy sentences. Sentences that fit. Tonight, none of those sentences worked. Because the truth is, and they were finally letting themselves see it, the timing wasn't off. The timing was inconvenient. There's a difference. The timing being off would mean it was never going to work. The timing being inconvenient means it could have worked, and they walked away anyway, because walking away was easier than rebuilding their life around something real. That's a much harder thing to admit. They went back to the kitchen. They picked up the phone. They typed the name of the place. They hit send. And then they sat there, waiting for the conversation to end, knowing it would, because their friend really did just need that name and nothing more. It ended within a minute. Thanks, the friend wrote. And then nothing. The phone went dark. The kitchen went quiet. And your person was alone again with everything that had just come back up to the surface. For a long minute they didn't move. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside, headlights crossing the ceiling. They became aware of their own breathing, slow, a little uneven, the breathing of someone who isn't being chased by anything except their own thoughts. They thought about the friend who had just messaged them, wondered whether the timing of that question was really as random as it seemed. The same night their other friend had said the thing about you. The same night the song had played. 3 small things, none connected, all pointing at the same door. That's when something subtle shifted. They didn't open your conversation. They didn't scroll up. They didn't even look at your name. But they sat there with the phone in their hand, actually held it, didn't put it down, and for the first time in months, they considered it. Really considered it. What it would mean to reach out. What they would even say. Whether they had the right to. Their thumb moved an inch toward the search bar, then stopped. The fear they felt in that moment isn't the kind of fear that protects you. It's the kind that traps you. The fear of finding out you were the one who was wrong. The fear of finding out you let go of the thing you should have held on to. The fear of having to say, after all this time, I think I made a mistake. Most people never say it. Most people would rather live with the not knowing. But something in them tonight, something that had been loosened by the song and the friend and the message and the memory, wasn't willing to let them slip back into the not knowing this time. They didn't message you tonight. I want to be honest with you. They didn't. But they didn't push the thought away either. They sat with the possibility. They held it. They let it exist as a real thing for the first time, not a regret they keep buried but a door they might actually walk through. That's a much bigger shift than it sounds like. You don't need to force this. Just feel it. The fact that you hearing this right now, in the same hours they sitting with all of it, that's not a coincidence. That's the thing two people don't realize they redoing together until much later. Here's what I want you to understand about this moment in their life. People don't change in dramatic gestures. They change in quiet rooms, late at night, when nobody is watching and there's nothing to perform. They change in the small, embarrassed moment when they finally let themselves admit something they've been hiding from for months. They change in the breath they take after their friend tells them the truth, when they don't argue back. That's where it happens. Not in the message they finally send. In the silence before it. Your person is in that silence right now. And what I want you to know, what the universe is whispering through every small sign you've been seeing this week, every dream you almost remembered, every time their name surfaced for no reason, is that this isn't a one-sided thing. You are doing this in tandem. On opposite sides of the same dark. Neither one of you knowing the other is doing it. You both keep almost reaching out. You both keep finding reasons not to. You both keep telling yourselves it's better this way. And underneath all of that, underneath the pride, underneath the fear, underneath the months of silence, there's a thread between you that nobody has cut. Not really. It got loose. It got dusty. But it didn't break. They feel it tonight. You feel it tonight. The third intrusive thought came to them just before they finally went to bed. Something about them still stays with me. That one didn't hurt. That one was almost a relief. Because it was the first thing they had let themselves think about you in months that wasn't wrapped in defensiveness or distance. It was just true. The way the sky is blue is true. Something about you stays with them. There's no argument left to have about it. They turned off the light. They lay down on their side, the side closer to the wall, the side they didn't used to sleep on, until you. Funny, isn't it? The small habits a person keeps after the person who created them is gone. They probably haven't noticed they still do that. But they do. And before sleep took them, they thought one last thing. Not a thought they could put into words. More like a feeling that finally had room to land. That maybe the version of love they had walked away from wasn't the version they were supposed to find again later. Maybe it was the only version. Maybe the reason nothing since has felt real is because nothing since has been real. Maybe the thing they had with you wasn't a chapter. Maybe it was the whole book, and they tried to put it down halfway through. They fell asleep with that thought. And here's the part that's going to stay with you. They're going to wake up tomorrow with that same thought still sitting there. Untouched. Not pushed away this time. Not buried under coffee and routine and the noise of the day. Just sitting there in their chest, asking to be honored. That's how it begins. Not with a message. Not with a phone call. Not with a grand return. With a person who can't push the thought away anymore. Now I want you to come back into your own body for a second. Because while all of this has been happening on their side, something has been happening on yours too. You've felt it this week, haven't you? That low, quiet hum in the chest. The way certain songs hit harder than they should. The way you keep waking up at the same odd hour, 2 or 3 in the morning, with nothing wrong, just a sense that something is shifting somewhere you can. TC. That's the other side of this. That's your half of the same conversation. You not imagining it. You not making it up. You not creating something out of nothing because you lonely. The pull you've been feeling is real, and it's mutual, and it's been there longer than either of you wanted to admit. The hardest part of being on your side of it is the not knowing. The wondering if they ever think of you. The wondering if it was just you, the whole time, carrying this thing alone. I am telling you tonight, it was never just you. They have been carrying it too. Differently. Quieter. With more denial. But carrying it. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, they stopped fighting the weight of it. You don't need to do anything with this information. You don't need to reach out. You don't need to make a move. You don't need to test whether what I am telling you is true. Just let it settle. Let yourself feel,